JD here, and as you can see, we are back on F124. And for today's video, this is something I didn't actually plan to make, because originally this video was going to be about teaching you how to turn off the traction control, because last week I did a video about trail braking. I will be doing it for traction, I will be doing it for turning off the racing line, also manual gears, so make sure you go and check that out. But yeah, as I was recording this video and I was actually testing the different assists, we had some pretty interesting results. And for perspective, I've been using no assists since F1 2010, so for a very, very long time now. I feel like I'm pretty qualified when it comes to the no assists, and I've used assists in the past, such as traction, automatic gears, ABS. I've been using it or trialing it on different games just to see differences. And in the past, when you used assists, yes, the experience was much easier and much more comfortable. Obviously, if you're quite new to the game, this is something a lot of people are going to be using. However, in terms of performance and lap time, you were punished to quite a big degree. So for perspective on 2012, 13, even 14, 2018, 19, 20, even as far back as 21 and 22, if you're running full traction control, then you would be a lot slower than someone who could actually use no traction control, aka no assists. And when it comes to assists, I would say there are the three main ones. Everything else should be off, in my opinion. So the assists are the traction control, the ABS anti-lock braking system, and then the no racing line. Those are the only assists I think you should consider having off. So I think you should always be running manual gears, no pit assists, DRS, ERS assists. That should all be off. These are the ones you should consider. So this is actually my fastest lap that I did with no assist at Bahrain. And you can see we haven't spent a lot of time here, and this is not going to be a perfect test. As you'll see throughout this video, I can be driving better, but I think after 5 laps, this was a fairly decent lap. Obviously still quite a lot of time in this. I think the world record on PlayStation is a 25.9, so we're not a million miles away. So after this amount of time, I was pretty happy. And this is with no assist, so this is with no traction control, no ABS, and obviously no racing line. And this is obviously what I'm most comfortable with. And of course, depending on your experience and your ability, these might feel very, very different for you. And like I said in the past, when you were running assists, yes, it can be much easier to be aggressive with the muscle memory and your inputs, but then there was kind of a ceiling you hit, and it was even sometimes a difference of up to like half a second to maybe even a second between someone running like the full traction control versus no traction control, even running ABS when without ABS. Because I truly do believe, and even still with this game, and you'll see results at the end, I do believe no assists is ultimately always going to be faster. You have the most access to the car, most access to the engine. It's a lot more difficult to master, of course, but because you have all the tools available to you, if you learn to master it, then you're going to get even more out of it. And you can see this is a 26.5, which, no, I think after 6 completed laps, I was quite happy with. And you can see we were trying to go for a little bit more, but you can see if we're playing too much risk with the traction, you can see the game does punish you. And when it comes to no assist, you really have to mirror whatever the steering wheel is doing, has to be mirrored with the traction and the trail braking like I did in my last video. But you can see here now, no assist is what we were using. So now we decided to try anti-lock brakes, aka ABS. And what I was expecting is kind of what happened when I did this. So the ABS is turned on now, and trail braking is very, very important on F124. And immediately, yes, you can brake later and heavier into the zones. You can see we are actually a little bit up on our time already. But I think that is also down to me only doing 5 to 6 laps. So I think there is definitely a lot more time in myself. But you can see braking late, but then we're going to lose it on the exit. And the thing I noticed when turning ABS on is that you do have a lot of understeer, because obviously the anti-lock braking system, its only job is to make sure that you are not locking up. So yeah, not locking up, but as a result, you can't rotate the car as well. And especially going to here, this is a crucial corner for no ABS trail braking. You can see this is where I normally would brake with no ABS, but because the anti-lock braking system is making sure I'm not locking the tyres, it means I'm actually having a lot less rotation and a lot more understeer. And of course you can counter that by putting a bit more of an aggressive setup, but for this test I was running the exact same setup the entire time. But a way to get around this is being a lot more aggressive with maybe the roll bar suspension, and again kept on having the same issue where I just couldn't really rotate the car. So quite quickly I was very confident that ABS on, at least for me, again it might be different for other people depending on your ability, but I feel if you're understanding the fundamentals well, like myself for many years, and you're confident with no assist, then on this game ABS will be so. So then I decided to try the medium traction control, and on the F124 I think the traction is probably one of the easiest it has been for many years. It still is obviously a skill when you're using no traction, but I was quite interested to see, especially with the traction, if that is actually going to make any difference whatsoever. And I was expecting to be punished for using the medium traction and the no traction. So of course, turning off the ABS now, I can actually rotate the car much better. And one thing you're going to be noticing when it comes to using the medium and the full traction control, you do actually benefit in the short term. So initially with regard to power, like you can see coming off the exit of here, or you'll see in other corners in a second, you do have a bit of an advantage, a bit of a benefit, because now you can be so much more aggressive, so you actually will get a little bit better acceleration. But because of the traction control, it's limiting how much power is going to the wheels to stop you from wheel spinning. You actually lose out on the exit. So this is a perfect example. So when I'm going through this corner, I actually get on the power really aggressively because I'm using the medium traction, but then you'll see I'll actually lose out on the delta and the exit. So if you look at the delta, I'm actually gaining on the exit, but because the engine is not giving enough power to the wheels, all of a sudden I then actually start to lose a bit. So that kind of shows that, yeah, you can get on the power earlier and much more aggressively, but then it's going to punish you by not giving you the absolute full range of the engine. So yeah, that shows I wasn't maximizing the no traction control. There was still quite a bit of time to find in terms of how smooth and how confident you are when using the no traction control. So I was gaining in the short term, but because you're not having the full access power to the engine, because it doesn't want you to lock up or it doesn't want you to spin the wheels, you can see then you actually lose out on the exit. So this is actually my fastest lap that I did on the medium. So a 26.5 is what I did with the full no assist. So no traction control, no ABS, obviously no racing line. But again, I think in this test here, you'll see on this lap, I think this is definitely a consequence of me just driving a little bit better. And obviously I've now done 10 laps versus the 5 and 6 I did before, just finding that limit a little bit more, braking a little bit better, releasing the brake a little bit more fluidly. And you'll see again, very similar. So on the exit, we are going to gain a little bit of time initially, and then you'll see that delta go up, which again, I don't have full access to the engine because the traction control system is trying to make sure I'm not wheel spinning at all costs. So you see again, actually gain in the short term, but you see again that delta going up, and you'll especially see it coming off these corners where the traction is very important. So go through here, doing this quite nicely, and we'll go gain a little bit on the traction, but then you'll see that delta is actually now rising up very solidly, which again shows to me that I can actually find some more improvement when I'm using the no traction control. You see again, gained a little bit when I went on the power, because now I can go on that really aggressively, don't have to worry really about spinning out that much at all. But then on the exit, you'll see again that delta is increasing. As you can see there, actually got better on the power, but now I'm actually losing a little bit on the straight, because again, I'm only having access to about 95% of the engine until the traction control feels I'm not going to be wheel spinning anymore. But you can see we've actually improved, and we've actually done a 26.5, which again, this is within half a second of the world record on PlayStation, and we haven't really done that many laps. So I was quite surprised that it was rewarding you this much. But now I decided to try the full traction control. I'm not going to bother turning on the ABS because I'm pretty sure that that isn't going to make me faster or anything at all, considering I'm quite confident with the trail braking. If you weren't confident in trail braking, then you would probably be going a lot faster with the ABS on. But you can see here, this is the full traction control, and it's very similar to the medium, but now you don't have to worry at all about feeding in the power. But you can see straight away we've actually gained quite a bit of time, and you can see again, because now you don't have to feed in the power, that hesitation you would have with the medium, and especially the no traction control, where you will be punished if you go on the power quicker than the speed that your wheel is unwinding. Once you finish turning into a corner, you're going back towards being straight, you are normally going to get punished, especially if your momentum and your minimum speed is a bit too slow. You're going to find it much, much harder to pick up the traction. Whereas now, if you look at the throttle, just instantly to 100%, even before I've started to unwind the wheel. And you can see we're actually going up on the Delta. And this is a really, really big surprise for me. In previous F1 games, you can see again, gained a lot of time on the traction there, but now the Delta is going up again, which very similar to the medium, it's just magnified even more. So you're not getting access to the engine. And I also noticed that I'm having actually a lot more understeer. When I'm using the full traction control, the car doesn't want to rotate as much when I'm going on the throttle, which again, very similar to ABS. You can actually combat this by having a bit more of a pointy setup, a bit more of an aggressive, a more rotation kind of setup. And you can see again on the exit, not able to get that rotation and push that wide. But you can see on our first attempt with full traction, we are within a tenth of completely no assists. And I don't think I've ever seen it this close on an F1 game. Out of all the years I've been playing F1, normally there has been probably well over half a second difference. I remember, I think even last year's game or the game before, when I was trying full traction just to see, it was such a big disadvantage. Yes, people who are brand new to the game, I think assists are necessary to get them comfortable with the game, don't get me wrong, but yeah, on this game, it actually seems to be that you can actually get up to a really good pace a lot more easily. And this is actually the fastest lap that I've done. And again, you'll see like with the medium traction, I gain initially because you could just go completely on the throttle. So you see at the exit of this corner, absolutely hammering the throttle. Look how much time you gain. But then the Delta will go down again. And you'll see in the exit of this one, we're going to be gaining quite a bit on the exit, initially on the throttle. But look again, you'll see that Delta will come down because we don't have access to the full power of the engine. You can see in a straight line, we're losing that momentum. Whereas with no traction, you have unlimited supply of the engine. So yeah, you'll have a lot more reward, but a lot more risk. What I'm finding with this, and you can see we're actually going faster with the full traction compared to no assists. What I'm finding with the full traction is that it is so much easier to get to the limit, yet you're not really being punished. So the reward and risk ratio doesn't really feel completely balanced to me. And you can see again, we're actually going to do our fastest time with full traction control. And yeah, this test I wouldn't take too seriously, but I think obviously since I've done more laps and I did the full traction last, I believe I was just driving a little bit better, pushing limits more, trail braking more, nailing the corners, my racing lines. But it doesn't seem to be that you're getting punished that much for running what I would consider full assist. I think ABS on, if you are a competent driver and you know how to trail brake really well, I believe ABS off will be much faster in this game, and because you need to use the brakes to rotate the car. But if you're not confident on the throttle and you're just mashing the throttle, but you know how to trail brake, I think you could be very, very competitive. And this is really my question to you. Do you think the risk and reward balance between no assists and assists needs to be changed? Because after this test and just trying this, I feel like you can be very, very fast when running a medium and full traction, having no risk of losing the car. Is that really fair? That's my question to you. What do you think? Again, assists are necessary for people who are brand new to a series. I do think it's a good thing to do. I also understand that EA and Codemasters want to make the game very accessible to everyone. That's something I do understand. But I do feel after doing this, there should be much, much more of a reward for someone who is competently driving without assists. And don't get me wrong, esport drivers are a level above what I'm doing right now. It's their job to do so. But I feel like I'm a pretty decent driver, a very experienced driver with no assists. I feel like there should be a lot more rewards when I'm actually doing the correct muscle memory. Whereas with full traction, I'm just mashing on the power. Obviously, I know how to trail brake as well. And yet, I've actually gone faster. I think overall, if I did the same amount of laps with no assists, I do believe I would be going faster by a good couple of attempts, a few attempts or so. I think I could get the world record around here, so another half a second, but it's so much harder to do that when you're running no assists. So let me know if you think the risk and reward balance is a little bit off. Quite an interesting test overall, but I will leave you with that. Let me know what you think, and I'll be catching you very soon. Peace.